Welcome to another edition of the Good and Plenty podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Goodman, and we got another great show for you today. We're going to do something a little different. Last week, we had Cade Cunningham on the pod, one of the top high school players in America. This week, we're going to have arguably the best AAU summer coach and program guy, and that is Keith Stevens. Remember, subscribe to the podcast. You can do that wherever you listen to your pods. iTunes, Stitcher, wherever. You can find me at CLNS Media. You can also find me at Goodman Hoops on Twitter and also at Watch Stadium, where I do most of my work. Good and Plenty podcast coming to you every week, and we are the only ones to actually talk NBA, college, and grassroots high school. Remember, today's show is brought to you in part by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit of at least $25. But let's get to it here, right to it. And Keith Stevens has some great insight into the world of summer basketball, what he would do differently, what he thinks of the NCAA, since they certainly view him or look to view him as the enemy and are trying to give the power back to the high school coaches. We'll also talk about Victor Oladipo and how many times he's been actually tossed from a game. The number is high. I won't lie to you. All right, here he is. Team Takeover's Keith Stevens. Now pleased to welcome in a guy I've known a long time, and I wanted to get a different perspective and different perspectives through the summer. Last week we had Cade Cunningham on, one of the top players in the country, who I know this next guy that we're bringing in respects a whole lot from watching him at the Peach Jam, and that is Team Takeover founder, everything, Keith Stevens. And honestly, and I mean this, Keith, we've known each other a long time. You're as good as it gets in terms of running a summer basketball program, not just a team, but a program, doing right by the kids, holding them accountable, everything like that. So I'm glad you could come on and maybe share some perspective and maybe debunk some of the myths around AAU basketball and the coaches. Tossed in your career, have you kept account how many times you've been thrown out of games by refs?
No way, no chance.
What do we think?
It's a lot,
Like 20, 30, 50, 100?
I'll say probably mid-20s.
Hey, one of the best ones was a couple of years ago. It was probably more than a couple of years ago now at the Peach Jam. When I think I had to get in, we were doing the game for TV, and after the game, you wanted to tell a few of those guys in the striped shirts what you thought of them, and it got a little heated. I got a little worried there that you might.
That was 4 years ago.
Was it? What's your?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that one.
What happened there, and what's your favorite maybe Peach Jam story if you got one?
With that particular incident, it was a referee made a inappropriate comment to one of the kids. So I just wanted to give him a choice word.
Yes,
but
you did.
I'll say like one of my favorite is probably, man, that event is so special. I have so many favorites. I guess my favorite is probably the two that I won more than anything.
Yep. And any cool behind-the-scenes type stories that happen at a place like the Peach Jam that we don't see? I mean, we obviously see out front, we see the kids and everything like that, but anything that kind of happens behind the scenes that you'll always remember?
Man, I think for my program, I think the biggest thing for us is, like, usually before we go there, we bring in Dr. Joe Carr, renowned sports psychiatrist, to work with our guys. So, for us, I think that's something that I'll always remember because it kind of gives us an opportunity to really learn who these kids are and what their backgrounds are. And they do a lot of things, that kind of translate into the Peach Jam, as they call it, like level 5 work and punching in before games and things like that. So for me, that's probably the biggest things that I will always remember, just really getting to find out who you really dealing with and just not the outside person.
Go through, because I don't even know your full background. I mean, I think we met probably the first time when you were helping Chris Chaney out.
Yes. I started. So basically, my full background is, I'm born and raised in the DMV. I I played 1 year junior college basketball. Ended up leaving school, got custody of my son many years ago, and then 2 years after that, I went and started coaching with Chris Chaney. So I've been pretty much coaching almost 27 years now. So that's been the gist of who I have become. Like, you know, you always they say you should be identified as something. I'm pretty much identified as Keith Stevens, the basketball guy. You know, so yeah.
Well, it's crazy to watch your growth, Keith, because again, like I said, when we first met, you know, I kind of knew you as a guy that was helping out Chris Chaney. I knew Chris well because he had dudes on the prep school circuit.
Exactly.
He had dudes. I mean, still said that was it the Laurenburg team might have been as good a team as I've ever seen at the prep school level. And then you went on, right? Helped out Curtis Malone a little bit, DC Assault. Then I think. Didn't you do some stuff with the Blue Devils even in D.C. and then did your own program?
I did. Yep, I did a little bit of both of them. I never really stayed in the AAU long until I came into my own, but for both of them, I probably worked for not more than 2 years of either of those programs, you know. So. And
then did your own program in what? I know you. What was the first year of triple? It was triple threat and then team takeover.
When we first started, we were triple threat, and I partnered with Mike Beasley, uncle, when I first started, and I did that for like 2 years, and then I ended up going to Nike. So that was probably in 2005.
Wow.
You know, so I've been kind of at it ever since then, like full throttle.
What's the biggest misnomer about AAU coaches, do you think?
I think everybody, you know, seems to think there's not a lot of teaching involved. You know, I know for my program and a lot of others, like, you know, I think we put just as much work in developing as they do at any level. You know, like for me, we still, you know, I've done Victor Oladipo's pre-draft. I did Eric Green's, Dennis Schroeder, and the list goes on. So, you know, I think there's not enough respect on guys at this level being able to teach the game or develop. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, I think they put everybody in one box and say that's who we all are.
No, that's the problem. The guy wearing the Bluetooth, right? The guy coaching with the crazy hat on or whatever. All it takes is one of those dudes, and that's it for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, like us, like, and Jeff, you know this, like, you know, you start looking at, like, really good high school coaches in our area, like guys like Steve Turner actually coached under Chris and I. So you know, back then, Steve was one of the best high school coaches in America. You know, and then you look at guys like Adrian Autry and Kenny Johnson and Tony Skinn and Nemo Midbar and the list goes, Brendan Strong, guys, Jay Larnega in the NBA. You know, guys that came up from under this umbrella and have become really, really good coaches. You know what I mean? At the different levels. You know, so I think there's a myth of guys just getting talent and just winning. When you've seen Victor Oladipo as a ninth grader or Jeremy Grant, and those kids weren't as talented, you know, they were more, you know, athletes than talent. You know what I mean? And, you know, they had a balance of really good high school coaching, you know, in this area with Mike Jones and the coaches we have around here, and then a good balance of teaching with our AAU program, and they end up becoming, you know, successful playing basketball.
You know, I was just talking to Kimmy English actually last night, driving back from UConn, and he's now at Tennessee. And we were talking about the Baltimore, D.C. area, which he comes from. So he's not completely objective, but I am. And I will say, like, it's one of the reasons when I tell people that I think Georgetown is one of the best jobs in the country, and they kind of laugh at you, right? They kind of like, really? Like it's the best job to me in the Big East. And people say, like, what about Villanova? And I'm like, do you realize how much talent there is in the area for Mark Turgeon in Maryland, for Patrick Ewing at Georgetown? To me, those schools should be making the tournament just about every year. There should be no reason that a Georgetown or Maryland isn't making the, you know, again, you have your dips, certainly. But for the most part, those programs are like bred to succeed because of all the talent in the area.
Yeah, and when you really, you know, and you're 100% right, because when you really think about it, like, Jay Wright and them have done a great job, but part of their success has been building relationships in the DMV to get kids.
Josh Hart.
You know? So that you know, Josh Hart, you know, Brandon Slater, Phil Booth, Justin Moore, even going back to when they was in the Final Four with Kyle Lowry and then when they had Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah.
So, and Dante Cunningham. So they've done their work to build relationships here. And if you go over consistently over the last 5 years, there was probably a DMV player on a majority of national championship teams if I was willing to bet on it.
It's toughness. I feel like that's the one thing you're going to get out of Baltimore, DC kids is toughness, is just guys that are going to come to play every night and outwork people. Is that kind of, that's what I remember seeing from your team even a year ago at the Peach Jam. That you had like three guards that a lot of people didn't know a lot about. They were like high major minus guards, maybe, I guess is what I classify. Yep. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know recruiting like I used to. I'm not quite as up on all the kids, but I feel like that's the one thing that defines almost a Baltimore DC kid is toughness.
Yeah, like those kids that we had that year when we won it, that backcourt ended up going to Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and UVA.
It's crazy.
But it was based on those kids were like they had a common goal, like they were about winning, like, and they know how to play the right way. Like one thing I always tell people, like I feel like we have the best high school basketball. Not just players but coaches. Like these coaches do a great job of teaching these guys, and then we just sprinkle on a little bit more and get them a different type of exposure during the summer circuit, and these guys end up being pretty good. We're fortunate to have a good balance in this area.
All right, so that's a great kind of lead in to what I was going to ask, which is your relationship. A lot of people think AAU coaches and high school coaches like hate each other. They butt heads. They're not working together. Like, what is overall? What's kind of common, and what's your relationship with a lot of those guys? Like you mentioned, the Mike Joneses of DeMatha, the Steve Turners, some of those guys in the area.
We have great relationships. I can go down the line where Steve Turner has a rising sophomore son that plays in our program. Steve and I coached at Newport Prep under Chris Chaney together. Mike Jones and I played in the same era locally. We communicate about all of our kids and we put a schedule together. He supports what I do and vice versa. Glenn Farello and I, been knowing each other easily 20 years and and we the way we operate is probably not the norm. Like we sit down and we figure out what's the best move for the kids, what's the best move for each program. And I've been fortunate to where I've had coaches in this area say, "Hey, Keith, we think we're not going to play summer league basketball. We're going to more so let the kids focus on what you guys are doing and do a team camp." But that's us really sitting down and working together, even talking about what events they should go play in during the high school season. And I think that's the myth where everybody thinks there's constant, fighting and tug of wars. And in this area, that's not the case. And if you watch it, our kids really don't leave the area because everybody kind of works together to make sure we put the best environment in place for these kids.
Keep them home. No, keep them home. That's something. I'm in Boston. And I feel like that's something Boston College has never done a good job of. Now, again, it's different. It's definitely different because people in Boston don't give a shit about college basketball. That's part of the problem. Right. People in your area, they care. They're passionate about it.
They really care.
They care. Yeah. So it's easier to keep those kids home. Before I get into some of the tougher questions that we'll get into with NCAA, the new recruiting calendar. Before I hit that, I don't want to forget about this. Patrick Ewing at Georgetown. When he was hired, I clearly had some concerns, which I have for every damn guy who's got $100 million in their bank account that comes over from the NBA. I just do. Listen, if I had $100 million and I went and coached my alma mater and I failed, it wouldn't be that big a deal. Like, I just wouldn't have the same life or death investment to take care of my family and have to succeed. Now, I get it. It's your alma mater, so you've got to. But like Chris Mullen, I think I called that one pretty right. And I think I've called a lot of them right. Like, Penny Hardaway's a different deal, right? He came from AAU. You coached against him at Peach Jam.
Yep.
totally different deal, Keith, that I don't think we can put Penny Hardaway in a group with almost any other former NBA player because he had an in with James Wiseman and he knew what he was getting himself into because he had done the grassroots thing.
Yep.
Patrick Ewing. Give me your take. Like I said earlier, I think Georgetown this should be the year they get in the NCAA tournament and they don't ever leave the NCAA tournament again. They're a fixture. How good, how hard does he work? Is he the right hire? Because I still felt like they should have went with, like an Ed Cooley type or, made a run at somebody. Right. But again, I think Patrick's done a good job. He's got good guards this year. They should win.
Hey, so I'll say this, when they made the hire, me being a local person and grew up watching the quote unquote Hoya paranoia, like I was excited, just because, you're talking about someone who you always looked up to. And then
you just wanted to sit down with him. Hey, you just wanted to sit down with him and hear the stories.
Exactly. So like when he first got hired, like with no invitation, I wanted them to know that I really supported the university and him. Like, so I went to the press conference.
Wow.
And he and I didn't meet or anything. So we never really talked probably for like a month after he got the job. And, everybody was like, well, they doing it the wrong way. They haven't reached out to Keith, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But my thing was he didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, he's coming from a whole different world. Grassroots basketball wasn't as powerful or prominent as it was when he came up. So I reached out to him and, we just went out and had lunch and just talked. And it was just like, we just hit it off. And I think after doing that, I was like, hey, you know what? Like anybody starting something new, he was going to have his bumps, but I never questioned if he was going to be successful because he was about kids. Yeah. And he was about the players, right? And,
but you got to work, Keith. You can be about the kids all you want, but you got to work.
Exactly. And what I've watched with him over the last year and a half is like, this is when the competitor in him has really, really grown. Like I've had conversations and he's made statements like, Keith, I don't want Villanova coming back in our backyard. Yeah. That shit can't happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's the competitiveness.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think like this year, they should be a top 25 team.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should be a top 25 team, but more importantly, he's building and creating a foundation where kids are now looking at Georgetown as they once upon a time did in this area. And it's not that you're going to get every kid, but if I can get one of the top 4 or 5 kids in this area in every class, I'm going to have a good team.
No doubt. Hard to screw that up.
I'm going to have a good team. And so I think he realizes that, and he's really been working to build those relationships. And they don't miss high school games in the area. Like, they're out. Like, They get out here, and they're doing a good job. And I think he's going to have some success.
The NBA season is over, sure, but that doesn't mean you can't still make money on hoops. You can already bet on who's going to win the 2020 title. Lakers plus 450, the Clippers plus 350. I still think there's going to be plenty of teams in the equation at the end of the day. Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis. I don't think there's a clear favorite right now. I really don't. I know, LeBron and AD, but both those guys are a little bit injury prone, so we'll see what happens there. And Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George. Love it, but still want to see it before I put down a ton of money on those guys. So I think it's wide open. You can also make custom player bets during games. Pick a player in a stat and betonline.ag will give you a line for it. Odds already out for player props for next year. Zion Williamson's points per game set at 18.5. I still think that's a little bit high. Make sure you go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman to get a 50% bonus in your deposit of at least $25 when you sign up and use the promo code CLNS50. Do not be left on the sideline with all this excitement going on the court. You can also bet in BetOnline's virtual casino, make some money there too. So whatever you do, make sure you use betonline.ag, use the promo code CLNS50, 50% bonus in your first deposit of at least $25. Just go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman. Please see BetOnline's general rules for additional terms and conditions regarding bonuses. All right, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I got to ask you, again, my whole deal is we could do this for an hour and I could fire questions at you, no problem. We're only going to do about 30, 40 minutes, but all right, I'm putting you on the spot on this one. Ready? What's the better job? What is the better job? Take away recent success, the coach who's there now, any of that. What's the better job, Georgetown or Maryland?
Woo.
You like that, don't you?
Alan, that's a good one. So I'm going to give you two answers. So I'm going to give you, first of all, let me say this. I think those are two of the top 10 jobs in college basketball.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think you could certainly make a valid case. Absolutely.
Okay, so now the one issue with Maryland is the conference that they're in. Like,
Yep.
Our kids are so caught up in ACC and Big East, like it's hard for them, man, like to get over that hump. So that would be the biggest issue. Now, if all is equal, conferences and everything, Maryland is probably a top 5 job in the country.
So good. Tell people why. Why do you think it is? Because I think a lot of people would still be surprised to hear that. But I'm you. I think it's probably somewhere 6 to 10. I would go, five to me, 1 through 5, and I don't know if you can argue this, would be in whatever order you want to do: Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, Carolina, and I think Louisville is 5.
Right. So, even with Duke, you can put Duke in front of them because of the success.
Yes.
But when you start talking about facilities,
players,
location,
players, yep.
And things like that, I gotta go away from that. But if you're talking overall success, yes, they're definitely above that. Like Maryland, people understand Maryland almost has its own little town in the DMV. Like they sit there, they got a bunch of restaurants, pubs, hotels, bars, and it's all College Park, Maryland. It's like everybody within that 4 or 5 mile radius knows every athlete that comes in and out of those stores and that walk those streets because it's all about them. And that right there says a lot when you can bring a kid on a visit and you can plant them right there, and it's like their own world. That's like their own world around a major city.
All right, let's get to some of the serious stuff and the stuff I'm interested to hear your response to. So I've tried to do as much as I could this year. I didn't get to one of the high school events in June. There really wasn't the Massachusetts one was kind of a prep school deal, and it was right before the NBA draft, so I couldn't get to one. But I went to the Peach Jam. I went to UConn yesterday. We're taping this on what's today, Thursday, and I'm going to Colorado Springs this weekend. And UConn was bad talent-wise, bad. And
I've heard.
Yeah, and all of them from coaches, from what they're telling me, it's really geared more towards like low major, maybe mid majors, but there aren't a lot of high major top 100 kids there. They just couldn't get them there, right? They couldn't. Now, some would say, well, there's a camp going on in Colorado Springs with some of the top players. I think that's complete bullshit. I don't think that's, even if that camp weren't going on, I still don't think they would have got the players this year because I think the NCAA pissed you guys off as a whole, the summer basketball coaches, the AAU coaches, by basically saying AAU's bad, high school's good. We're going to give the power back to the high school coaches, and screw you, AAU coaches. Like, we're going to take away everything because they wanted to take away the Peach Jam. Let's face it. They wanted to take away the entire month of July and probably even April. They didn't because there was kind of a backlash of how good Peach Jam was, and these guys had no clue. These people on the commission, Keith, it's funny. I remember I put together my own commission, my own kind of mock.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You were on it. You were on it. I mean, my commission would have killed it. Their commission is a bunch of people that, honestly, for the most part, have no effing clue what the hell's going on, especially at the grassroots level. And I think they screwed this calendar up pretty good. And again, I'm not blaming it all on the NCAA, but and Dan Gavitt and those guys. I think they're trying to do the best they can. Anyway, to make a long-winded question of how badly they screw this up, how badly did they piss you guys off as a whole when they kind of came out and said, hey, we're taking the power away from the AAU coaches. We're giving it back to the high school coaches.
So for me, man, it was like I'm probably a little different than some of these other guys because for me, I really didn't have a problem with it. I just wish it would have been more thought out, So I give you an example, and I've had conversations with different people on that side, and I told them, I said, I understand what your thought process is, and I don't knock their thought process, but I think you have to do more research and talk to more people before you make these type of decisions, right? So my thing let's start with the NCAA camp.
Okay.
If I'm involved with that, if I'm them, and I said this to them, and recently I said, hey, what you guys probably need to do is, if you can go to each region and create an advisory board / committee, whatever you want to call it. So that region might say, you might go to the DMV and say, hey, I'm going to get Keith Stevens or Damon Handon, then I'm going to get Mike Jones and Steve Turner.
Yep.
Then you go to Philly and you say, I'm going to get Rob Brown and Kamal Yard, or I'm going to get, John Moscow and someone else, right? So you go, then you do the same thing with New York, and then you do the same thing with Connecticut. So let's say you put an 8-person board together. That's your advisory board.
Yep.
Now, if nothing else, you have people within the trenches that you can quote unquote consider your allies to help you get those kids to participate. Now people don't feel isolated as if you're taking something from them. Now there's not a war because you have somebody that they know personally saying, hey, it's not about us. This is why they want to do it, and explaining it in a way where it don't look like everybody's in a quote-unquote tug of war. So that's what I would have did with the NCAA camp.
But they're not going to do it, Keith, because Condoleezza Rice thinks you're bad. She thinks there's a hole, and those people in the committee or the commission obviously think overall that it's bad to have AAU coaches involved, which is the dumbest damn thing.
Because here's what's crazy. When you start talking about Boo Williams being a prominent, forget AAU, prominent businessman, right?
Yep.
Jerry Jones' daughter running, with her involvement with the Texas Titans, businesswoman, right? Hal Pastor's a businessman.
Yep.
So you have a lot of educated people that's been successful in corporate America outside of this AAU realm or travel team, whatever you want to call it. And you're looking at a small number of people and trying to lump everybody in that category when it's a lot of these AAU coaches are probably more educated than the majority of these high school coaches.
Yep.
So you're playing them against each other when the reality is both serves a major part in the success of these young men and women, right? So why are we trying to divide those two or say one is better than the other when, just because you coach high school don't mean you won't do anything illegal and vice versa with AAU. Like a person is a person.
You got to find the right people. That's the key. You got to find the right
that's
people.
What it all really boils. What it really boils down to, finding the right people to have the right agenda and objective, and figuring it and putting them all together. That's all this is about.
No, you're right. Because if you had at UConn yesterday, if you had you down there with Steve Turner and Rob Brown and some of the other guys you mentioned and whatever, Leo Papil, whoever, whatever it is, you got 4 summer guys who run summer programs, 4 high school guys, maybe you even have a 12-person board and you get 4 other guys that are different, even, whatever, whoever it is. I said to him, listen, they're stupid, even in a sense of mediate there yesterday. I couldn't even sit with the coaches. They're separating us from the college coaches. And I'm like, you understand, I'm not going to come back. There's no reason for me to, if I can't sit with the coaches and do part of my job. Now, I want to watch the players, but there weren't players there yesterday. So all I wanted to do was talk to the coaches. I can't sit with them because they're kicking me out. And I even wore a T-shirt to try to get in. I went and got a Merrimack men's basketball T-shirt the previous day so I could try to just sneak in there. But they caught me. So they nicely kicked me out, but they kicked me out.
But think about this, Jeff. Here's the reality. Once again, kids go to basketball camps, they go for gear.
Yeah.
Number one, they're going for gear. Okay?
Yeah, they are, no doubt.
Once you get a kid at a camp, you better be giving out some gear. Okay? They going for the media and then the coaches. Those are 3 things, right?
Yep.
And the majority of kids you want to make the camp work, something, right? If they're not getting gear, the majority of them already know what's got the recruiting. The schools are already looking at them, so you're not going to get those kids. You have to create a board and work with and get everybody to work together if you really want to make it happen. But the way it's doing now, it's like, you know, like it's really like who got the biggest stick. Like that's what everybody's going to do. I'm going to show them. I'm going to get my kids not to go. Like, that's what they're fighting against.
How many guys, how many AAU coaches have you talked to that have basically told their kids, like, listen, we're not going, you're not going, and it's strictly about the fact that they're just pissed off at the NCAA?
I'm not going to say I've talked to that many that did that, but I know a lot of them feel that way. Like, for me, like, I gave my kids the option. I'm like, look, we're done after Peace Jam. Yeah. Hey, let me know who's going, so if I need to come up there and support you guys, I'll come up and support. So I didn't tell them don't go because I'm done. But I only had one kid go.
One kid?
One kid.
Wow.
And you're talking about we have two teams at every age group from 15 all the way up. We only have one kid to go.
So how did it work? Like, I still haven't gotten the full answer, and you may not know the answer to this. Like, how did it work? Why did you have a bunch of kids invited that all said no? Or was it they didn't sign up, or a combination? Because you got to kind of be nominated or nominate yourself.
Like, because we're not, so here's the thing, because we're not involved from an AAU standpoint, I don't know the process.
You don't even know the answer.
I had a parent reach out to me, and this son is actually really good. And was like, hey, what do I need to do for my son to go to Connecticut? And I'm like, I don't know, but let me call and find out. So when I called him back, I had to tell him, like, one, you missed the deadline. Two, your high school coach was supposed to give you that information because we don't see the information.
Right. No, it was poorly thought out. As you said, part of the problem is the NCAA usually moves at a snail's pace in most things. In this one, it was a knee-jerk reaction, and instead of really thinking it through, you know, even something as simple as you had like 6 or 7 guys on every team there yesterday, and they're playing 40-minute games. They changed it actually to, I think, running clock yesterday. But, you know, again, coaches are thinking, I don't need to see, if they got 6 guys on a team, I don't need to see them playing 40-minute games. Let's just run it at 30.
Right.
You know, just, and again, I think a lot of it can get better for next year. I really do. Like, most people hate the camp setting and are like anti-camp setting. My deal is, if you have high school in June, if you have AAU in April and some in July, and then you have one camp setting at the end, I'm actually fine with that. But just have the players, get the best players, get everybody.
Right. So, because here's what's happening right now. You have, so here's the part that I'm still trying to figure out. Maybe you can help me. I've heard for so long, they said when they criticize the AAU guys, it's these kids are playing too many games.
Yeah.
But then you add a camp, 2 weeks of camp, where kids, you had 2 weeks in June, then you take the 2 weeks in July. That's more games than they were playing.
I know. No, because they don't know what to do.
Like, that's more wear and tear.
Yeah,
like, for us, like, my team, like, Jeff, think about this. My team this year, we played 18 games. I'm great with that.
Yeah, that's a good number.
We played, that's a great number for a spring and summer for those kids.
Yep. Because they're high level. People don't get it unless you've been there. This is high level. This isn't rolling the ball out. Like, this is organized, playing for something. That's the best thing of all these leagues.
Yeah.
Whether it's Nike and the EYBL or the Adidas Gauntlet or whatever, Under Armour, they actually, like, I didn't know if it would work. Because, listen, I was a guy who came up going to ABCD camp, and I loved it. I got to admit, I miss the juice in the gym at FDU. I miss it.
But that was a different level of a camp.
Totally.
The kids felt like they were playing for something. Like, there was no social media. Like, they weren't over. Like, there wasn't so much out there where you seen them so much where they could come in being cool.
Right.
They were in there playing for their name,
playing
for their reputation.
Yeah.
They had to prove something.
I mean, shit.
Now, we flood social media and we saturate this thing because you see these kids so much on Ballers TV and all these different things. What are they really playing for?
Well, they're playing at EYBL. They're playing for a title. I mean, it's like for that. Listen,
Yeah.
I'll always remember Harry Giles. They lose CP3 in the title game, and that dude bawled, like literally was sitting there bawling at center court when they lost.
Hey, but you're playing for something, right?
Damn.
So
That's what I mean.
His passion, like that passion, like when you work, because first of all, like when you look at, and this is no knock on none of the other circuits, but I can only speak for the Nike circuit because that's the one I'm on. That EYBL championship means so much. Like that's probably in between you winning your high school state championship if you're in a major league, and in between you winning a college championship.
Yeah.
Like because you're playing on TV, it's national. You're playing the best players in the country. The guy that you're matched up against is probably going to play in the NBA, or worst case scenario, he's going to play high major basketball. And this is something you can hold on to. You can go back and look at it and show your kids you played on ESPN as a kid.
Yeah.
It's so much with it.
Yeah.
So you're really going to compete.
No, it's different.
You're really going to compete.
Yeah,
it's different.
Again, there are some shitty AAU tournaments. There are some shitty AAU coaches. And, man, there are some really, really – I'll put – again, I've done both. I mean, I came up doing recruiting, and, like, I'll put the elite-level AAU coaches up there against the elite-level prep school coaches, the elite-level high school coaches, you name it. I mean, to me, there's some great ones. So what would you do, Keith, if I said to you – and I don't know if you thought about it – what do you do with this recruiting calendar? And listen – the NCAA's already come out and said, we're not scrapping the camps. Like, we're not going to get rid of them.
No, they already made that clear. They're not doing that. So, like, if I had the calendar, so next year is going to be tricky. They can't really do, because the way the dates fall, so there'll only be one live period in April as of now.
Again?
But if I had...
Really?
Yeah. So, but if I had the calendar, that one live period in April scares me. And it scares me because you can get a false evaluation.
Totally. Yep.
Right? So... If I had to, in a perfect world, my calendar would be 2 live periods in April.
Yep.
All right. Then we'll come back in the 2 in June. I would make one of them a high school week and one of them a camp week.
Okay.
Okay.
A camp is in what
USA
they're trying to do now?
Basketball, NCAA, however they want to do it, I would do it, but I would create that board to be able to put the best camp in place.
And you know what? They'll play in June because it's early. They're still playing for scholarships.
Yes, yep, exactly. And
is that why you do it then?
July they're going to dog it.
Well, some will.
Then,
right.
Yeah, some. So then I will come back and I will have that Peace Jam week.
Yeah.
And then I will have a week, that following week I wouldn't have anything. Coaches wouldn't be able to come out.
Yep.
They just need to be focused on their kids in summer school with their families, whatever it might be. And then if you want to come back that last week and let kids go to Vegas, Orlando, or whatever, and then I think that's the best calendar for it. I think that's the best of both worlds for everybody.
I actually love the idea of doing the camp in June because I think it actually could work. The last week is the one that obviously is the issue. I think at the end of the day, I think again they're not letting Vegas be sanctioned again. They're just not. You just know
and
how
that's
they
fine.
think.
Like, hey, listen. When you've done this as long as I have,
you don't want to go back.
I'm okay with it because I want to stay home. Like I got a 3-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter, so I want to spend time with my family. So I'm good with that. But that would kind of be I think that would be the type of structure I would try to put in place.
See, I miss the blackjack tables. I won't lie. I do. Listen, it's an excuse to get to Vegas, and I could tell my wife, I gotta go. Like I have to go to Vegas. Now you got to be creative if I want to get. Now the good thing is there's a new casino.
Now I got a question, Jeff. I got one for you.
Yeah.
So why isn't we put all this focus on the boys' calendar? Why is it nothing being changed on the girls' side?
I don't even know what the girls' side is. Like, I don't even.
Oh, man.
I heard they make a lot of money, though. I heard they make a lot of money off the packets.
Oh, man. My girls team won the Nike version of P-Sham this year.
Okay.
Right? So, for them, like, you're paying like $1,000 for an event for your team to go participate. Man, they go out. They out in May. The coaches are out in April. They're out in September. Like at AAU events.
Really?
Like they got you need to go look. They got a whole different structure.
You know what? Maybe I'll get a women's coach on maybe for the podcast and go through that. That's kind of interesting.
You should try to do that and let them break down their schedule.
Yeah.
Like they're allowed to go to AAU practices.
What? They can go to AAU practices.
I don't know how many, but during certain periods they can go into an AAU practice.
Listen, a coach had a good idea because I've been talking to 50 coaches over the last week here about the calendar and what to do. And one of them was I was talking to him this morning, and he said, just give us a certain amount of days overall, whatever the number is, 350 for all of our staff, and let us figure it out. And whether we want to go in April, May, June, July, sanction whatever you want to sanction, and let us just figure out. If we want to use 4 coaches out there for 4 days, we're going to do it. If we want to skip that one, if we want to go to the top 100, we can do the top 100 camp. A low major school obviously wouldn't use a day on a top 100 camp. Let us figure it out.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard guys say that. And I mean, I just think I like that because, you get to plan your vacations with your family. You get to figure out how much time you're going to be on campus with your guys. Because all of that stuff is important, but when you just put them in a box, how much freedom do they really have to be able to kind of create, to create the time blocks that they want?
I had another coach tell me, and this was, I don't know why I didn't even really think of this, but he said to me yesterday, he said, listen, why are they teasing us? Either you don't, if you're the NCAA, either you don't want any AAU events at all and take them all away, but why are you giving us one in April, one in July? Either let us have all of it or none of it. Is it good? Is it bad? Why tease us on this? This is stupid.
I said this to someone, and this is not a knock on high school coaches or anything, but just think about this. One, how often can you really go see a kid play during the high school season if you're trying to have the best season for your program?
You can't.
Right? You can't. Right? So let's say I decide I'm going to go watch the Mather play on a Tuesday night, and it's not a great game, but I got to go see Hunter Dickinson. What kind of what kind of evaluation do I get watching a 7-1 kid play against a 6'4" post player?
None. Zero.
Right?
I mean,
so
absolutely
then
nothing.
You wonder, so if you take away but when I go to an EYBL event, if I go watch that 7-1 kid, I know he's at least playing against a 6'9", 6'10" athletic kid that's similar talent level to him to really get an evaluation. Those are the types of things I don't think they pay attention to, because when you get bad evaluations, that transfer portal number only goes up higher and higher.
No doubt. That's what a lot of coaches have said. It's probably at about 850, 900 right now. I got to actually add it up maybe later today or tomorrow.
Right.
But you're right. We're talking in 2 years, it could be 1,200 because of all the mistakes that are going to be made because kids are taking guys off one evaluation, or maybe the head coach never even saw him. I mean, it's one of those things where you might have saw a kid at the Peach Jam once, and then you couldn't see him again. You just happened to see him. He's outside your area, and then you couldn't really see him again, so you had to offer him. You missed out on your other dudes. You had to offer him, and either he doesn't fit you, he's not good enough, he's too – whatever it is, you just don't have enough good quality information on these kids before you got to make a move on them. And I think that's hard.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but I cannot get off the podcast without at least asking 2 things about your boy Victor Oladipo. 1, the update on how he's doing in his rehab, and then 2, your best Vic story, and make it good. Don't give me some vanilla ass Vic story either. Give me something good.
So no, as far as his workout, he's been well. I haven't seen him. I've more talked to him. He's been back and forth between Miami and LA, but I know he's working. That's one thing about that kid. He always works, and he'll come back better than what he was, and people will be shocked of how soon he'll come back. I just know how he drives himself mentally.
Are you worried about him going too fast in a way to try to get back?
Yeah, but I think like he has the right people around him to slow him down, and and the Pacers have done a great job of monitoring it. So even though he might say he can come back at a certain day, I don't think everybody in his corner will allow him to do it if they don't feel 110% that it's time.
All right, now give me your best story. Better be good.
I'm trying to think of a really good Victor.
I mean, you got to have them. The kid's a riot.
No. The best story I could never tell, but I'll tell you. Like when I first met him, I went up to meet Mike Jones about something else. He was like, "Yo, I got this kid. I want you to see." No. I got the best story. The best story is, I want to say Victor was in 10th grade and he had just started. Like smaller schools that just started to recognize him. And he called me and Kenny Johnson. And he was like, "Hey, I got a problem." I'm like, "But he's like, what's going on?" He's like, "I don't think I'm going to be able to play AAU basketball this summer." He's like, "What do you mean you're not going to be able to play?" He was like, "My dad wants to send me, I can't remember if it was China or somewhere, but basically somewhere like that to study Kung Fu." We like, huh? No, true story. So he's like, "Yeah, he's not letting me play. Like, I'm going there the whole summer." He said it's going to help me with my discipline, and we're not doing the basketball. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And man, so like at this point, he started like I said, he's really getting good. We like, yo, we can't. This is the first year. This is our last year with Triple Threat. So. Okay. We like, man, look, we close to getting this Nike contract.
Right. We can't let him go.
He can't not play.
Right.
He can't not play. So Kenny Johnson's wife, her family and Victor's family somehow are from somewhere near each other in Africa. So she was able to call and talk to Dad into letting him play. But he always says this. He was like, "Yo, just imagine if my dad didn't let me play, what I would be doing now." And I'm like, "You wouldn't be playing college. You wouldn't play in NBA, and you wouldn't be in the fucking NBA if that happened."
He'd be a kung fu guy. He'd be like a UFC dude.
And he wasn't good enough to miss a year of basketball because he was at that point. He was like a 6'2", 6'3" power forward that couldn't shoot. He was just athletic and couldn't dribble. So that summer, like that really almost happened. Like, I think he might have talked about it in Sports Illustrated or one of those stories he did, but like that was crazy. A true story. And I don't know if that would have happened if he had beat a Victor Oladipo we know now. He might be more singer than basketball player.
Listen, I remember going to a practice freshman year at Indiana and walking away from that practice and being like, that kid's not very good. Like he had a horrible practice. Horrible.
Right.
I mean,
people
don't realize how far he came.
He only averaged like 4 points a game as a freshman.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was
but
crazy.
This kid, man, like his work ethic has always been, unbelievable. And he's always been like a nosy kid. So like if two people like he always trying to figure out any advantage to get better. So like he's just like, real instinctive and always learning and, and trying to figure out everything that's going on around him. Like, so I think that's one of the things that makes him who he is.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the pod. This was really good. We'll do it again for sure. I just want to know, do we list you 5'7", 5'6"? What do we list you at? That's what I want to know.
Look, I always tell my coaches, I measured out at 5'6"3/4.
We'll round it off. We will round it off. We're going to give you the 5'7" on this pod, all right? 5'7". I'm not going to ask you your weight or your age.
Oh, man.
It just it ain't fair. It ain't fair. And just listen.
Look. The good thing is I'm about to get married, so I'm on the diet right now, so that's going down.
I gotta go that way. Trust me. I put on about 10 pounds in the last month between taking a vacation overseas and Pete Sham doesn't help. I mean, it's all bad. No. It's all bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen,
man, I appreciate it.
Always good, and enjoy your August. I assume that is your down month or one of them. So enjoy that, and we'll talk soon.
I'm getting ready for my wedding, so there ain't no downtime right now.
Are you getting married? So where are you getting married?
I get married September 5th.
That's my birthday. Congrats, man.
Oh, wow.
Congrats.
My man.
Congrats, and enjoy it. All right?
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, take care, man.